All right then. So in Kenya, the government has banned all international conferences at least for the next 30 days. The move is part of efforts to prevent the spread of COVID-19, even though the country doesn't have any cases at this point. A string of high-profile events right across the continent have been scrapped in the last 48 hours. This comes as organisers are wrestling with the need to minimise the risk of infection in crowded venues. One of the continent's major events, the Africa CEO Forum, was postponed earlier in the week. The business conference was due to take place in Cote d'Ivoire just next week. Now, the Africa CEO Forum wasn't the only conference to have been cancelled in the last 48 hours. The next Einstein Forum in Nairobi, the Great Lakes Investment Forum scheduled for the 18th of March in Kigali, those have also been postponed. So let's try and get a feel for how the travel and tourism sector is being affected by this. Agnes Moshohe is the Chief Executive Officer of the Association of Travel Agents here in Kenya. She joins me in studio right now. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
So walk us through the trends of what's happened from January into February, as we started to get more and more reports of the coronavirus outbreak. How have bookings been affected?
The month of January held pretty stably, but as we have transitioned into the month of February, we started realizing a decline, and this was attributed to the cancellation of flights between various hubs into the China. And we also realized that in total, the number of passenger bookings that we lost was actually 6% in total. And as we are now transitioning into the month of March, we are realizing on average a decline of about 12% to date.
So that's 12% year on year compared to this time last year?
Compared to the same time last year, yes.
Okay. So that being said, because China, looking at the traffic statistics from 2018, China accounted for a fraction of tourism traffic because our main source markets are in the West. It's the United States, the UK, Germany, and so on and so forth. Now that we're seeing more cases coming from there, how much worse will it get?
It is a very unprecedented time, and we are still studying the data, and we are closely monitoring the cancellations that are taking place. You will realize that tourism is 100% anchored on aviation. So the minute a connectivity is withdrawn, we end up suffering directly. So what we're anticipating is that the virus is going to be contained in the markets that have been affected, and that we should be able to resume online operations without any further disruptions. And once that happens, immediately we'll begin to realize a recovery in the tourism sector.
But this first part of the year is usually your prime market, isn't it? Your prime marketing season.
This is usually the shoulder season. Yeah. The peak seasons begins to set in towards the end of June all the way to mid-September. Yes.
All right, so moving forward though, I mean, this is it's a public health emergency issue, right?
Yes.
So when it comes to how you deal with cancellations and of course the question of refunds, because that always comes up.
Very true.
What sort of conditions do you have to deal with now? Are we giving clients full refunds? Are we keeping part of the cash? What are the legal implications of that?
This is usually hedged on the commercial agreements that the airlines have put out with the travel agents, and also the rules that they have put out on the tickets that you have purchased. However, what we have realized is that they have become very amiable and they are very understanding of the current situation. So they have provided a lot of flexibility by way of extending free cancellations and by way of extending full refunds, especially in areas that have already been categorized by WHO as high alert zones. Yes.
Right. So moving forward though, and I know we don't like talking about worst case scenarios, but that's something we have to plan for.
True.
If we have to deal with something comparable to say what China had to deal with, right, in Wuhan, how will that affect the sector? Because I imagine, because as you said, it's unprecedented.
True.
A full lockdown in this market for say 12 weeks. How would your businesses fare?
In the period 2005 all the way to 2015, we actually went through something similar when the SARS and the Asian flu came in. And in the Middle East, we ended up experiencing the MERS. And during that period, what we realized was that the first 3 months, there was a very steep inclination, and then it peaked by the time we were getting onto the third month. And as we transitioned towards the fourth, fifth, and sixth month, the curve actually tapered down. And during that period, the bookings began to recover again. Right,
so you're looking essentially at a 6-month window to deal with this. So effectively, that would put you right back into peak season at the end of 2020.
At the end of 2020, yes.
But can travel agents, can business survive that 6-month window?
For us to survive for the next 6 or 12 months to come, we need to change our attitude and mindset around this issue, because this is another opportunity for us to actually transform and revive the sector and to look inwards. We have huge opportunities within the African continent, because we are yet, to see many countries being flagged as high alert countries. So we do have an opportunity to promote travel intra-Africa, and I believe that will stimulate the travel industry and ensure that we continue to operate successfully.
All right, one last question for you. We do have a budget statement due in another 3 months, give or take, which is smack in the middle of that window that you gave us. What sort of support measures, tax and non-tax, would you like to see from the authorities moving forward, assuming that this does become a full-blown health crisis? I'm thinking of, say, for example, post-2008, right,
True.
after Kenya's post-election violence. And of course, some of your members may have some bank debt, they may have credit lines that they need to be able to service. Would you like, for example, those debts to be rescheduled?
The way we would look at it from an aviation perspective and also from a travel industry perspective, the biggest cost driver within our sector is actually the jet fuel. So the recommendations that we would wish to put forward to the government is for there to be a reevaluation on the jet fuel prices for the aircrafts, for the airlines that are operating into Kenya. Once we achieve a reduction on that, on those costs, then immediately what will happen is that the costs of the tickets will also go down.
So essentially stimulates the travel.
Essentially now you will have demand being stimulated, and you'll have a higher volume of passengers being able to undertake their travel. And the ripple effect of that is that all the travel agencies will definitely get onto a recovery mode. At the same time, in terms of financial stability, we would want to see better financial instruments in the travel industry by way of debts that are on a discounted interest rate being extended to the travel agents themselves. Because at the end of the day, they need to also have a stronger financial standpoint as we try to build up the recovery of the sector.
All right. Agnes Moshoka, thank you very much for taking the time to talk to us.
Thank you for your time too.
Appreciate it.